So my background in sailing is a lot of dinghy sailing in high school, and a lot of bigger boat keelboat sailing, offshore sailing, and um, Grand Prix style, like big boat keelboat sailing, specifically in like far 40s and then in the West Coast 70 fleet out here in California. I've always had size issues with sailing in smaller dinghies, so right at the beginning of COVID, we were doing quite a bit of windsurfing, and a neighbor of ours had purchased a fin named Roland Fournier, and I was just talking with him with the COVID lockdowns here in California. At Alamitos Bay Yacht Club, the only people who were allowed to go sailing were the single-handed boats. So basically, it was the fins and the lasers who were allowed to go sailing. And there were only two fins at Alamitos Bay Yacht Club in the middle of 2020. Roland let me go sailing in the bay in his boat for about, I don't know, 20 minutes, and I was sold, basically. Then about 6 months later, 6 to 8 months later, I bought a boat, then bought another boat, and bought a mast, not knowing any better, some really stiff numbers, and just started racing. We've seen quite a growth in the class here. If there were only two boats at ABYC in the middle of 2020, and now we have 8 to 10 now. So it's quite impressive to watch the fleet grow here, and just overall interest as well. For me, in dinghy sailing, I was never terribly successful in lasers and whatnot. I think I sailed only about 2 laser regattas total. Ended up hating the boat, so then kind of put single-handed sailing away for a while, but then got back into the fin, and it's led to a lot of opportunities. Most recently, did the Star Western Hemispheres and the Star Worlds, and that's can be directly tied to the fin sailing I've been doing, as it was through the results in the fin that I got a invite to go sail Stars with John McCausland, who's a world champion in the Star class. I love the technicality of it. To me, a laser is honestly almost too simple. I mean, it's great because it means that everyone has the exact same stuff, but the fin, I like we all have different mast bend numbers. The boat stiffnesses is a big thing, but it also allows the boat to be sailed by a gigantic weight range. We have guys sailing at about 180 pounds, and then we have guys sailing at 280 pounds, and they're all relatively equally competitive here, at least. So it's really cool to see that. I don't know any other boat that has a single-handed boat, at least, that has such a massive weight range, and where the bigger guys, they have their techniques on how they get the boats to work in light air and whatnot, and and then the small guys can figure out ways to make the boats work in heavy air, which is super cool to watch because even in the last day of nationals, we had 23 knots at the top mark or something like that, and we had the entire fleet rounding within a minute and a half from front to bottom over 45 boats. Mm-hmm. So and there was a gigantic size range and honestly in sailor skill within that, and the whole fleet is quite competitive as well, which is a good thing. Having strong fleets is quite important as well. And we're super lucky in Southern California that we have a bunch of really, really world-class sailors who do sail regionally here in the fin and nationally. Hurts. Everything hurts all the time, but in a good way, in a fun way. I remember the first time I went downwind in a fin, and I grabbed the sail 1-to-1, and I remember I watched I think it was the 2018 World Cup, and everyone's the commentators are talking, oh, it's so hard to pull, it's like literally pulling a small car with the main sheet. And I was like, oh, this can't be that bad. It's like sailing a laser downwind, you grab it from the boom, and then it picked me up. and I was like, oh, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. Which for me is also like built like a huge respect for the the guys that make it look so easy, the pros at the Olympic level who are just can go downwind and they're just moving their arms like this. It's just I'm not that strong, but I'm working on it. Since um, well, as terms of the venue, genuinely, I've only sailed in Miami twice, and they were all in very different boats. I sailed foiling catamarans there once, and I sailed a high school team race nationals there once. So, and neither in the venue. But I mean, if we have a front come through and we have big breeze days, it's going to be amazing. I know in the winter it can be a bit, down on where you get, that's sailing. We'll just have to sail to the conditions that we sail in. I know of quite a strong group from at least from our fleet is going out. Also with a lot of people purchasing new boats, that'll be great for the U.S. class, in my opinion. We basically have a shortage of newer boats. I think basically in the U.S. there's 3 Fantasticas currently, and 2 of them are sitting about half a mile from me right now. So I know of at least 1 container of TT2s coming, and then multiple containers of new Fantasticas coming with new masts and a bunch of new sails. And I think that'll be good because a lot of people can then sell their like very nice classics like I have to newer sailors in the class. And then hopefully that just brings the cost down. But then everybody is sailing much nicer boats overall. So I think that'll be great for the class. As in terms of sailing in Miami, I know of, at least our fleet, a lot of very, very good sailors are going out. I'm not too sure about the Europeans coming, but I'm looking forward to it. I know, the really good Europeans will show up, and the Australians are going to show up, and some Kiwis are going to show up. So, quite excited to sail with the international fleet. Never have, so it'll be all new to me, at least in the Finn class. So I'm quite excited to do that. I know that the Miami fleet is also quite strong. I think they have probably 10 or 15 boats that are actively sailed. So also excited to go sailing with those guys. I'll use the Star class as an example. In the Star class, the Star class has a U30 foundation that helps the U30s with their programming. Just because unfortunately, all these boats are quite expensive, and I've been super fortunate to be in a position where my parents are extremely supportive of me. But I know that's not the case for everyone. we need to help probably some of the younger sailors get into the class, and there's quite a knowledge that is required in the boat that I'm only just starting to put together. I think we've been very fortunate in here in California. Everyone is quite open about helping one another. I've had help. I've had guys help me install parts on my boat. We share mast numbers, we share rake numbers, we share information. Just information. Sharing of information. And if I'm not at the club one day and some guy asks, "Hey, can I get my buddy? Can he borrow your boat?" And yeah, go for it. Get people sailing. Honestly, for this, we need to just get people in boats. One of the kids I coach on the modern day sailing team, his name is Brady Kennedy. He lives down in Newport. He sailed the nationals I guess he just turned 15. Yeah, and that was with the help of Robert Kinney. I'm gonna give Robert Kinney a massive shout out here. Robert Kinney's who's a Newport Harbor sailor, has been massive in getting people into the fin. He single-handedly, in my opinion, has grown the Newport Harbor fleet from 2 boats to about, I think they have 10 or 11 boats now, or 12, something like massive growth. Basically because Robert has been taking people, older guys, younger guys. He has a couple boats and he just puts them in their boats and gets them sailing. And I think the fin is a boat that I know a lot of I have a bunch of larger laser sailor friends. Like, oh, why would you sail a fin? And I understand it's not an Olympic boat anymore, but don't knock it until you try it, because honestly, it's a lot better than a laser. Let's be honest here. And it's just, yeah, I think so. If we get more youth involvement, I hope that we can get more youth involvement with this Worlds, and that it here, at least in the U.S., we don't have a ton of presence. We're working on that. But if we can just get, if we can get some higher level, bigger laser sailors who maybe don't want to sail lasers forever, but still want to sail a single-handed boat, I would urge you to look at the charters for the fins. I know there's been some stuff posted on Facebook. There's a guy who has a bunch of Fantasticas and nicer classics with masts for, I think, fairly reasonable charter rates for what the boats are. And Miami's going to be a great place to sail the boats, and that we can, we have such a massive sailing window from 0 knots to 30 knots, depending on the weather, which is great. And so I think if we can get a bunch of younger people into the class and try and build it, we could have a lot of interest, and further along the class, because, well, at least we're seeing here in the U.S. quite a big growth. So I don't think we're going to go away anytime soon, which is good. And just further the development of everything, and potentially attempt to lower the cost, which would be nice. So, yeah, see you in Miami. I'm super excited.